listening to the Shared Security Podcast, exploring the trust you put in people, apps, and technology, with your host, Tom Estin. In episode 111 for March 9th, 2020, a new report shows that attacks on Internet of Things devices are on the rise. The FCC finds major mobile carriers for selling users' location data, and details on what happens when 3 million HTTPS certificates need to be revoked because of a coding error. Take our 2020 listener survey and get entered into our drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card. We'll have the survey open until March 14th, so visit sharedsecurity.net/survey to provide your feedback about the show. And thank you for your feedback. We really appreciate it. I also want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor, Silent Pocket, for supporting our show over the last several years. Check out all of their privacy-focused products at silentpocket.com. And make sure you use discount code SHAREDSECURITY to take 15% off your order. Welcome to the Shared Security Weekly Blaze podcast, where we update you on this week's most important cybersecurity and privacy news. These podcasts are published every Monday and are 15 minutes or less, quickly giving you news that you can use. Cybersecurity company FCC recently released their H2 2019 Attack Landscape Report, which shows that while the impact of ransomware attacks continue to have a devastating impact, the majority of the billions attacks tracked by FCC actually target devices that don't have keyboards, like Wi-Fi routers, web cameras, and other Internet of Things devices. FCC stated in their report that they've seen a significant increase in attack traffic to their honeypot or decoy servers, specifically targeting ports on these devices that provide remote access or have known vulnerabilities. The next step in these attacks, of course, is to try common default passwords in order to log into the device. And as you may have guessed, these passwords have never been changed by device owners. So what were some of the most common passwords that were found? 12345, default, password, root, and of course, admin. Now, once an attacker is able to log into the device, the majority of these devices are then used for botnets, which are typically found in distributed denial of service or DDoS attacks on websites and other systems. So what's the lesson for all of us? Well, change those default passwords on any of your Internet of Things devices if you can. That's right. Unfortunately, some of these cheap webcams and other devices you get off of Amazon don't give you the ability to change default passwords. Even worse, some of these devices can punch a hole through your router's firewall, leaving default ports and services wide open to the entire internet. Check out our show notes for a quick test that you can run to see if you have any devices running at home that may be exposed to the internet, and for a link to an article with some basic rules for securing your Internet of Things devices. The FCC recently issued massive fines against T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint that total more than $200 million for selling customer location data to third-party data aggregators. You may remember that back in 2018, a company called Securus had sold law enforcement agencies access to the locations of people's cell phones without any oversight or warrant. Further investigation from several journalists revealed that many other similar companies were also selling location data that they had purchased from the major mobile carriers. And while the carriers all said that they would stop selling location data, many of them were caught still sending customer data to these third parties. So several years later, the FCC finally does something about it and now proposes individual fines for each carrier based on the amount of time that the carriers sold access to customer data and the number of third-party companies which they sold the data to. FCC Chairman Ajit Pai said in a statement, quote, "The FCC has long had clear rules on the books requiring all phone companies to protect their customers' personal information, and since 2007, these companies have been on notice that they must take reasonable precautions to safeguard this data and that the FCC will take strong enforcement action if they don't." End quote. Of course, the carriers can dispute these fines, in which they have all said that they take the privacy and security of our customers' data very seriously. But you know as well as I do that a statement like that is probably too little, too late. In other mobile carrier news, if you happen to be a T-Mobile customer, you need to be aware of a new data breach of T-Mobile customer data. T-Mobile said last week that their internal security team discovered that an attack took place against their email vendor, which exposed the personal data of T-Mobile customers and employees. Information accessed may have included customer names and addresses, phone numbers, account numbers, rate plans and features, and billing information. Thankfully, financial information, including credit cards and social security numbers, were not impacted. No other details were provided, including how many customers happened to be affected by this breach, but if you were, you should have received an email notification from T-Mobile. For more information, check out our show notes for a link to the data breach disclosure posted on the T-Mobile website. And now a word from our sponsor, Edgewise Networks. The biggest problem in security that remains unsolved are flat networks in cloud and data centers, with unprotected attack paths that allow threats to move laterally to cause data breaches. But microsegmentation using network addresses is complicated and takes too much time. But there's a better approach: Edgewise Zero Trust Auto Segmentation. Edgewise is impossibly simple microsegmentation, delivering results immediately with a security outcome that's provable. At the core of Edgewise Auto Segmentation is Zero Trust Identity, which allows workloads to communicate only after their software identity has been verified. Malicious or unimproved software is no longer allowed to communicate. Identity-based protection provides more coverage with fewer policies to make Edgewise simple to deploy and manage. No changes to the application or network are required. One solution protects virtual machines and containers in the cloud and on-premises. To stop lateral threat movement and prevent breaches, visit edgewise.net for a demo and to see results within minutes. So what happens when an HTTPS certificate provider makes a coding error when issuing certificates that are used to secure over 3 million websites? Well, you revoke them and make all of those 3 million certificates invalid. And that's exactly what happened last week to free HTTPS certificate provider Let's Encrypt. It also means a lot of work for you or your organization if you maintain a website that has a Let's Encrypt certificate that was recently issued. If you're not aware, HTTPS certificates, or known as TLS or SSL certificates, are what provide secure communications over the internet. So for example, when you visit your online bank, you hopefully should see a lock in your browser window, which states that you have a secured connection to your online bank. HTTPS certificates make all of this happen, and if there is an issue with a certificate for a particular site, your browser will tell you that the site is not safe to browse to because of a certificate issue. In the case of the Let's Encrypt certificate bug, if customers do not renew these certificates within a certain time period, visitors to their website will see security warnings noting that the site is not secure. Originally, this deadline was set to March 4th, which was only 36 hours after the initial announcement about the bug. However, Let's Encrypt has changed this requirement in the best interest of internet health. The bug itself was in Let's Encrypt's certificate authority code, which allowed some domains to go unchecked for what is called CAA, which stands for Certificate Authority Authorization, which has to do with DNS record compliance. Although the vast majority of the certificates revoked posed no security risk, they were not issued in full compliance with security standards. Check out our show notes for more details on the Let's Encrypt bug and what you should do if you believe your website or organization's website may be affected. That's a wrap for this week's show. Visit our website, sharedsecurity.net, for previous episodes, links to our social media feeds, our YouTube channel, and to sign up for our email newsletter. First-time listener to the podcast? Please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And if you like this episode, please share it with friends and colleagues. Thanks for listening, and see you next week for another episode of the Shared Security Weekly Blaze.